Welcome, everyone, to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance alongside Tommy Krysan here with you. TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. Hope everybody's having a great week. We're here on a Wednesday morning edition of Sports Shorts today. We're talking a little NBA playoffs, the Denver Nuggets. Were very impressive as they win game one of their series against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Celtics are in action tonight at 8-point favorite over the Miami Heat. Both teams, the Lakers and Heat, number 8 seeds in the finals of the West and the East. That is impressive. Also, LSU baseball, the Tigers get back on the win column. An important win. They get win number 40 on the year, knock off a pesky McNeese Cowboy team last night at Alex Box Stadium. They win 7-4. They came from behind, or it was tied. I think they were up, then it was 3-3. And they ended up winning 7-4. A couple of back-to-back homers gave them some space. Beloso hit one over the bleachers in right field, and then Travinski bombed one near the Tony Sashery sign in left center field to give them some room, and then they hung on. Of course, the relief pitching made it a little interesting there in the last inning. The bases loaded, I believe, but they got out of it. Hurd picked up the save, and 4 different pitchers, I believe, combined in that game. So the Tigers now are off to take on the Georgia Bulldogs, who did not play yesterday. Their game was rained out in Athens, their midweek game against Western Carolina. Georgia will now host LSU Thursday, Friday, Saturday at 5, 5, and 12 of the Central times. Tommy, first off, your reaction yesterday's game. LSU out-hit. LSU made 4 errors, but they figured out a way to win.
Sloppy game. McNeese is a good team. They're not great. I think they have a 500 record in the Southland Conference. But for the most part, pitchers did a better job of throwing strikes. Not like a great job of throwing strikes, but threw strikes. But still, too many breaking balls for my liking. I mean, this is McNeese, who's a 500 team in their conference. I mean, throw the ball over the plate. But they found a way to big fly by Beloso. Wow, that was a shot. And then Travinski, it's going to be hard to take Travinski out of the lineup going forward. I mean, he's played some really good baseball at the plate. And all that stuff, but the 4 errors, and I mean, I didn't feel the intensity. I mean, I was watching the game. You were there. I was not. It didn't seem like there was any urgency or intensity out there. Almost like they're playing, with somebody's looking over their shoulder. But the bottom line is they got the win. And Justin Hill does a good job at the McNeese program. We know that, a former Tiger pitcher back in the day. So it was good to see him get a win. But now the focus has got to be Georgia. You're good with schemes. You're probably good with money. The rest of it, they got to step up.
Tommy White, another big night, 2 for 3 at the plate. He had a sacrifice fly. He was sensational. Milazzo picked up another hit. Travinski played first base yesterday, which was interesting. They sat Jared Jones, the DH Beloso, the freshman Jones, who's hit a little snide over the last couple of weeks. And so I think they're kind of sitting him, resting him, riding the hot horse in Travinski, which is the right thing to do. And so LSU changing up the lineup a little bit right there. And look, having Jones come off the bench at the moment gives you some juice off that bench, no question about it. But last night it was troubling. 4 errors by 4 different players. And there was another one that was not ruled an error that could have gone that way. So it was a little bit of a bobble. Dylan Cruz got a courtesy hit, I think, there his last time up. They ruled it an error initially, then they overturned it and made it a hit. It was an infield ball that probably was really an error, but I think at home you give your guy the benefit of the doubt a little bit. He's not seeing it right now. Great. He's hitting on top of everything. If you notice, everything's a ground ball, a bounded ball. It's like all of a sudden, even when he in a hitter's counts, he's just hitting the top part of the baseball. He's not getting the bottom of the ball. So there's obviously a little sight adjustment type thing right there. But Tommy White is just in fuego, as well as obviously Travinski and some other play. And Beloso's been, he'll look bad one at bat, and then bam, he had a couple of really good at bats last night. Hit the ball hard a couple times. So, and by the way, finished with 10 home runs. How about Beloso's bookend career? 10 homers as a freshman, 10 homers as a senior.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question, Ronnie. Well, first off, Milazzo should have caught that pop-up, or I thought White should have called the off. It was up high enough where White should have come and got it. Is he eligible to play at LSU next year, or is he draft eligible?
Yeah. No,
so he's not draft eligible?
No, he's not draft eligible. No.
Oh, well, that's good news, LSU. I don't know why. I didn't think of that, like, is he or not, until it came up last night during the broadcast. I think Doug Thompson made the comment. So, but that's good. But anyway, yeah, like Steven said, it was 4 errors. Could have been a couple of more. Just they were going through the motions. I mean, it was McNeese. It was not a big crowd at the box for the final regular season game. Of course, there will be a regional at LSU and probably a super regional. So, Ronnie, have they done enough to be a national seed and host a super regional? Doug Thompson said last night, no, he doesn't think they have been. Now, a lot of that depends on what everybody else is doing.
Sure.
If somebody else slipped in the final weekend or in their conference tournament. But I think they've done enough. I mean, number one for 12 weeks.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Tommy. If they go 0-4, okay, meaning if they go 0-3 this weekend and they get past and finish, say, 5th in the SEC, they don't get the bye, which means they have to play on Tuesday. And if you lose that game, you're out, one and done. Okay, if Tuesday's the playing game, and everybody that's not a top 4 seed will play in that game, minus the 13th and 14th place teams, which we know Ole Miss is one of them. They won't be in Hoover. So I agree with Doug that if they go 0-4, if they lose to Georgia and they end up 17-12, which would be their record in the SEC, and they will have lost the last 3 series, they will have lost 7 of their last 8, and then if you lose on Tuesday, it'll be 8 of their last 9 SEC games. So no, I do agree that they can't just lose the next 4 games. That could possibly cost them being a top 8 national seed. And I say possibly, not a guarantee. But I would say that if they go to Georgia and they win 1 game, Tommy, then they would secure themselves the chance to be a Wednesday play. Wouldn't have to do the play-in, and then that means Wednesday or Thursday you're going to get a chance to throw Paul Skeens. Probably Thursday, you'll get a chance to throw Paul Skeens. So you'd throw Skeens on Thursday this week. You'd throw Skeens on Thursday next week. You're going to win with Paul Skeens. So I mean, the bottom line is that I do think that they can if they go win 1 at Georgia. And they go to Hoover, I don't know if they need to win it all in Hoover. I think they can. If they win 1 at Georgia and they're 18-11, they're going to be a top 8 national seed. But I think the reality is they'll go win 1 at Hoover with Paul Skeens pitching on his normal week's rest, and so they're going to get you 1 over there, and there'll be a double lock.
Well, Stephen points out that the writers at Baseball America said yet Monday that as long as they win 1 game at Georgia, they'll be a national seed. Now that's
right.
Those guys' opinion, okay?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of opinions out there.
Yeah, because the thing about it, win 1 at Georgia, you get to 18-11. They're a top 4 team in the SEC. Their RPI and their wins against top 50 teams and all that. Their resume is too high. And the reality is, look at Vanderbilt. Do you think Vanderbilt has a better chance? Vanderbilt just got swept by Florida. Vanderbilt was swept earlier in the year. They've been swept twice. Okay, they got swept by Tennessee and they got swept by Florida, did Vanderbilt. LSU hasn't been swept by anybody, So, Arkansas has been swept. Florida's been swept. So like there is no superpower team. Now, Florida's on the come and they're playing the best right now and everybody's got them peaking at the moment. But the point is that outside of really Florida right now is somewhat considered hot, and Wake Forest, who's been hot all year, everybody else has shown kinks in their armor. And so, again, it goes back to what you said earlier, Tommy. Like, you got to look around, and it's not just what LSU's doing. It's like, well, are there really 8 other teams that are better resumes than LSU? And I think the answer is no, if they just go win 1 at Georgia.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. And, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll see what happens. Pitching's got to be there, got to step up, get rid of the walks, get rid of the errors. You got to do it all because Georgia's good enough to beat them. Georgia's not a great team, but they're good enough to win at home.
Speaking of the walks, I do want to clarify. I did some research and with the help of a buddy of mine over at ESPN. Yesterday, I said on the show, or Monday, I said on the show that Paul Skeens, I think he had 15 walks this year, I believe. And of those 15 walks, I thought about half of them were breaking balls. With half of them would have been breaking balls on ball 4 is what I meant. And the reality is it's less than that. So of the 15 walks, I think 7 or 8 were full counts. And of the 7 or 8 full counts, 3 of them came on 3-2 breaking balls. Now, you can make the case, and I will, because I'm just, that once Paul Skeens goes to 2 balls and 2 strikes, you should never throw a breaking ball after that unless you're facing, like, again, that 3-4 donkey in a tight game or something like that. It should just be fastball in there. Again, we're trying to win in college. If we're trying to develop for a Cy Young Award winner 5 years from now, I guess the right thing to do is to make them throw breaking balls. But we're trying to win in college. We're just trying to win this year, trying to win a national championship. We're trying to minimize his pitch count so he can go as long as he can because we don't trust everybody else. But the answer was, I think the analytics with the data showed there was like 3 breaking balls, and it might have been a 4th, depending on sometimes it's crazy. ESPN has this data, Tommy, where they read the pitches, right? There's 2 different datas that they use. One of them had him throwing 1 or 2 breaking balls and on the full count, and then the other had 3 or 4. So, and I think I remember 3-3-2 breaking balls against Arkansas when he walked to 8-9-1 in the 6th inning. That said, I do want to correct myself. I said half the pitches were breaking balls. No, only 3 or 4. But last night, Blake Money in the 2nd inning, and I'm talking myself through this. I'm just trying to figure this out where I'm going wrong here. Blake Money in the 2nd inning had runners at 1st and 2nd with 2 outs. LSU was up 1-0. LSU was facing the number 9 hitter in the lineup. And Blake Money threw a 3-2 breaking ball, which was short. It bounced, and he walked him. Now, he loaded the bases, and now the next guy, the number 9 hole hitter, grounded out. But why in the 2nd inning against the 8-hole hitter where we're up? We're trying to learn from the 10 walks on Sunday, right? Like I'm sure we put a point of emphasis, like, hey guys, we got to minimize the walks. We don't want to walk. So why would we throw a 3-2 breaking ball to the 8-hole hitter in that situation? Again, I'd love to be in a master class to learn, because clearly what I know is wrong for 2023. But it just again, that just was one of those things that was curious to me.
Well, I'm just thinking, it's the pitch calling, and somebody told me Wes Johnson didn't call pitches with the Twins. Is that accurate? Do you know?
Well, nobody does in the big leagues. No, nobody does. Not all the catchers and pitchers call their own game, and occasionally, obviously, they have meetings with the pitching coach to make a plan.
It goes back to what I said Monday. In the major leagues, you can't lay a fastball in there because those guys aren't going to miss it. They're going to hit it 9 out of 10 times. Okay, hit it hard. They might always get a hit. But in college baseball, the McNeese 9-hole hitter, I mean, you got to just throw it at him. Or the Arkansas 8-9-hole hitters. Just throw it over the plate. Your coach, Coach Burton, would say the odds say the guy's going to get out. And the odds say they're not going to get 3 hits in a row. Although last night, McNeese got 5 hits in a row at one point. So, I don't know, man. I guess it's one of the beauties of baseball, and you and I, being former pitchers, we both coached many times. We've called pitches. I mean, it's sometimes maybe we're outthinking ourselves, but I don't know. I think, and I've had a lot of people say, "Man, I got to throw more fastballs."
Well, listen, I get it that the guy on deck is probably hitting a lot less than the guy in the box. You can always do that old pitch around it thing and say, hey, look, we're the guy hitting on deck's 50 points lower. I understand that. What I'm alluding to is that we're still in developmental phase. We're trying to build confidence. We're trying to, in Blake Money's case, who ended up, as it turned out, had the bad 3rd inning, and I don't know how he's, if he's feeling good about himself after, today, like, minimize his pitch count, minimize the opportunity to walk batters, minimize the opportunity to not be successful, allow your teammates to make plays behind you. Again, throw it in there 70% of the time, it's going to go to somebody. And in Blake, so I don't know. It's just a different way of looking at it. That's sometimes a little bit strange.
Let me run this by you. A pitching thing here. Jay Johnson's got a quick hook, and some of that's because he doesn't want the walls to crumble in. Okay, but if you're a pitcher and the guy's got a quick hook, isn't that a little more pressure to throw strikes? And I mean, I don't know. It becomes a mental thing. All these guys are wearing an LSU uniform, and at some point they showed that they can pitch baseball and get people out.
So what are you saying, Tommy? You're saying that the quick hook.
Sometimes you got to let guys go. Sometimes you got to let a guy work through a problem. I realize you got to win the game, but it's been all year long. It just seems like he doesn't let anybody work through a problem. And then if you don't throw a lot in the 10-run rule games early in the year might be a factor here. Now you want 10-run rule games, so you ain't got to throw the 8th and the 9th. But back then,
I'd be willing to bet that Jay Johnson has a different conversation with midweek teams next year. Like, hey, if you want to be on our schedule, you got to play 9 innings no matter what. I'd be willing to bet that conversation happens because
Right.
he got burned this year on 20 plus innings, that this team didn't get to play, and that's innings that the pitchers clearly needed. No, I would say that I don't think that's look. If you look, I get it. The quick hook in the SEC, I get it. Throwing 8-9 guys yesterday on a Sunday. Now there might have been one or two examples where I thought, hey, let them go, let them stay in, and let them go out again. But for the most part, like yeah, if you're going to pitch at LSU, you know what your job is. Your job is you go in there and throw strikes. And if you go in there and you hit a guy and walk a guy, then you need to get the heck out. There were times that Coach Bertman, I remember one time he had a guy literally came into the game, threw one pitch, hit the guy, and he pulled him. And, and literally, I think he knew it was coming.
Was that guy, is that guy's picture on the wall at Bruley walk-ons?
No, but I'm sure there's plenty of examples of that guy at the Bruley walk-ons being me, where he had the quick hook. But no, I remember one time the ball literally came out of the guy's hand. Like it hadn't even gotten to the plate. And the coach had already started walking out of the dugout to go pull him. Like he saw it coming and was like, I've got to get him out. So, no, I don't blame the quick hook, especially in SEC play. Midweek, you give them a little more rope to work through things and all that, I believe. And I like the fact that last night it looked like Jay gave Money 3 innings. He gave, he gave like 3 guys 2 innings or more. Like that was good, to get those guys some work.
Yeah,
all right, so
Herring and Dutton both got a bunch of pitches.
Dutton again did well for 2 innings, and he goes out the 3rd inning, gives up 2 quick hits, and then it gets interesting, and he's got to get hooked. Herring looked good; he got the win. He was the sharpest of the LSU relievers. That's a good thing because remember earlier they were doing Skeens for 6 or 7, and then Herring to kind of back end it and bookend it, and it looks like Herring did well enough to. I don't know. He won't throw Thursday because he threw too many pitches on Tuesday to probably come back and throw on Thursday. But still, I thought he did well.
He threw over 40 pitches.
Yeah, I would think, unless they have to, I don't think they're going to throw him on Thursday. I think they would probably hold him potentially to throw on Friday or Saturday. All right, LSU wins their 40th game of the year. Interesting also, we mentioned Georgia didn't play because of rain out, but Ole Miss didn't play last night against Austin Peay. They actually canceled the game a couple of days ago. This is one of those situations where Ole Miss didn't qualify for the postseason and not going to the SEC tournament in Hoover. They're finishing their year at Alabama this weekend, and then that's it. So the national champions are not in postseason, and they just waved the white flag. And supposedly it was mutually agreed upon between them and Austin Peay that they wouldn't play a midweek game. This was precedent last year. There were some teams that did this a few times. But most of those teams were teams that were on the bubble with getting into the NCAA tournament, and they didn't want to play a low RPI team to affect their RPI, so they canceled the final game of the season, like a midweek, because if you beat a Southern, for example, your RPI is still going to drop because there's such a low RPI. This was not the case for Ole Miss. There is no postseason for Ole Miss. The fact that they basically just canceled the game because they, in essence, didn't have anything to play for is a little shocking to me, Tommy. As a player, especially guys that haven't played a lot, I'd be super disappointed.
I agree. 2 and 2 is not making 4 here. Maybe at some point we'll find out what might be up and what was the real reason for doing this. So that started last year. I think A&M canceled the final midweek game, and somebody else did it. I mean, for the RPI factor, well, that's not a factor here for Ole Miss or Austin Peay.
By the way, happy birthday to Kim Mulkey, turned 61 today. What a great year she's having. I mean, national champion, getting every player in the portal she wants. She's, bullying the state capitol, the legislature to get money for a new stadium. I mean, she's the queen of them all. And what's your age birthday, Tommy? 61?
I'm 63, so Kim's catching up with me.
All right. LSU softball, their regional starts Thursday or Friday?
Friday at Tiger Park.
Big weekend series. They've got Raging Cajuns are in there, 4-team regional. And anytime that happens, I mean, it is spicy.
It's going to be a big crowd.
There's going to be a giant crowd, and Raging Cajuns won't be intimidated playing in Tiger Park, a familiar opponent and a familiar location.
Beat them there this year.
Yeah, and then LSU will be fired up. I'm looking forward to that. I'm not a big softball guy per se, but I mean, anytime LSU and UL battle, particularly on the diamond of any kind, it's must-watch TV. You won last night. You had the Nuggets laying
No,
six
I
and a
lost.
half.
I laid 6.5. They won by 6. So I missed a free throw. Would have got it for me. Nuggets go up 1-0. Celtics host the Heat tonight. Celtics play in 8. Over and under 211. Game went way over last night. And the NBA draft lottery was last night. The San Antonio Spurs might become relevant again. They won the lottery. They're going to take Victor Wembanyama, who's supposed to be one of the best, bigger than LeBron James when he came out of high school, into the NBA. And then the Pelicans has got the 14th pick. Somebody wrote it at PrestonCitySports.com that you can get a good player at 14. Well, maybe, but you would like it to be higher, but that's what the Pelicans, they'll pick 14th. And, of course, the PGA Championship, the second of the 4 golfing majors, starts tomorrow morning in Rochester, New York. Oak Hill, a lot of big names, a couple of live golfers that are involved. PGA was more open to the live golf thing and some other people. And John Daly pulled out due to an injury, okay? But he has a quote that says you can't pull fat. So that's why he's never injured. But he must have pulled some fat. He's not going to play in the PGA. But look for John Rahm to be pretty strong in that.
Talking about Wembanyama going to San Antonio. I saw some video on him. He is a freak. He's a difference maker. And look at the San Antonio Spurs when they've had the first pick, when they had Robinson and they had Duncan. When they had those 2 different guys, it changed the course of their franchise. This is definitely going to do the same. All right, Tommy, tell us about Tremonti's before we get out of here.
Tremonti's has got the Corazon tequila brewed in the barrels, is aged in the Blanton barrels, same place Buffalo Trace is made. And they got a nice little label on with Tremonti's logo and the Blanton's logo. Corazon tequila. It's a dark tequila. If you tequila drinkers, jump on it. They got plenty of it here. Stop by and get some at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge, the Corazon tequila. Still got some crawfish, a couple of more weeks on that. Lunch special today is lasagna.
For Tommy Krysan, I'm Ronnie Rance. Thanks for watching Sports Shorts Daily. Please like and share this video. Don't forget, we are 2 weeks away. We are less than 2 weeks away from the Baton Rouge Rougarou opening day on May 30th. Get your tickets now at brrougarou.com. Season tickets only $100. Get you 4 people into every single game. You can't beat it. And we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, May 30th for opening night. We'll be back on Friday for more Sports Shorts Daily. Until then, have a good one, everybody.